The planet was a frozen wasteland. Snow swirled in thick, blinding sheets, and the wind howled like a wounded beast. Every step on the icy surface made Captain Marcus Hale's boots sink into the frost. The cold gnawed at him through his suit, but he kept moving, following the faint pulse of a distress signal on his scanner. It was weak, irregular, barely alive, like the heartbeat of something small and fragile. As he trudged through the snow, his eyes caught a movement. A small figure hunched over near a broken sled, shivering violently. Marcus froze for a moment, startled. He had encountered many alien species on his expeditions, but this was different. This creature was tiny, no taller than a human child, with large jet-black eyes that glimmered through the storm. Its skin was pale green, almost translucent in the harsh light, and it wore ragged clothing that offered no protection from the freezing wind. The little alien noticed him immediately. She dropped to her knees, clutching at his armored leg. "Human, please, help." Her voice cracked, distorted by the translator device, but the fear was clear. "My mom, she's dying from the cold. Please, help her." Marcus's heart clenched. He looked past the girl and saw a larger figure slumped in the snow, barely moving. Frost covered her face and arms, and her chest rose in shallow, uneven breaths. A mother. She looked fragile, almost like she could shatter with a single touch. Without hesitation, Marcus dropped to his knees beside them. He ignored the sting of the wind cutting through his suit. He pulled the mother close, wrapping his thermal blanket around her shivering body. His hands moved quickly, checking for a pulse, examining the frostbite, adjusting the blanket to trap every ounce of warmth. The little girl's hands clung to him, trembling. "Please, my mom. Don't let her die," she whispered, tears freezing on her cheeks. Marcus could feel the desperation radiating from her tiny body. He thought of his own daughter back on Earth. The thought of leaving her helpless and cold filled him with a familiar ache. He wouldn't let this child face the same pain. He scanned the surroundings. The storm was worsening, snow was piling higher, and the wind's bite was growing sharper. The little girl's mother was fading fast. Marcus knew the signs of hypothermia: slowed pulse, pale skin, shallow breaths. If they didn't act fast, she wouldn't survive the night. But he also knew his med kit wasn't made for alien physiology. One wrong move could end her life. Still, Marcus didn't hesitate. He pulled out his portable shelter and began assembling it in the midst of the blizzard. The little girl helped as best she could, dragging the broken sled inside, shivering violently but determined. "We must keep her warm," she whispered. Her accent, her strange grammar, it didn't matter. The meaning was universal. Marcus pressed his gloved hands against her mother's body, feeling the cold seep into him. He adjusted the heater in his suit, directed its warmth toward her fragile form, and whispered, "Stay with me. Don't leave her. Not tonight." The girl's eyes shone with a mixture of hope and fear. "You humans. Strong. You can save her," she murmured. Her voice broke, but determination glimmered through the tears. "Please, don't let her die." Marcus's heart ached, but he focused on the task. He refused to let the storm, the cold, or the uncertainty stop him. He would fight for life, even if the night tried to take it away. For this little alien girl, for her mother, and for the reminder that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, humans could bring hope. The snow continued to fall, relentless and merciless, but Marcus Hale would not give in. Not tonight, not when someone's life depended on him. The wind howled like an angry beast outside the shelter, rattling the thin walls of the dome. Inside it was warmer, but not warm enough. The little alien girl sat on the snow-dusted floor, hugging herself, shivering with fear and cold. Marcus crouched beside the mother, whose breathing was shallow and uneven. Her skin was icy blue, and frost clung stubbornly to her hair and clothing. Every breath she took seemed like a battle against the frozen air. Marcus's medkit offered little comfort. It was designed for humans, not alien physiology. He studied the mother's body, his hands hovering uncertainly. One wrong move could kill her. His mind raced. He could call the ship for help, but the storm might prevent a shuttle from reaching them in time. He had a choice: risk everything and try to save her, or watch a life slip away. The little girl's black eyes locked onto his, wide and desperate. "Please, human, you can save her. My mom, she can't die!" Her voice broke into a sob, and she pressed her cold hands to her mother's chest, trying to feel for a heartbeat that was barely there. Marcus swallowed hard. The truth was simple, he didn't have the luxury of hesitation. He thought of his own daughter back on Earth. He remembered the nights he would hold her when she was sick, the way he would never leave her side. He could not abandon this child, not here, not now. "I won't let her die," he said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. He opened his med kit, quickly sorting through supplies. Thermal blankets, heaters, nutrient packs. Everything he had would have to be enough. He started with the basics. He stripped off one of his insulated layers and wrapped it around the mother, pressing his body close to share warmth. The little girl flinched. You'll freeze too," she cried. Marcus smiled faintly, teeth chattering. "I've been colder," he muttered. "But she needs me more than I need myself." The mother stirred slightly, a faint shiver running through her frail body. Marcus felt a flicker of hope. He added another blanket, arranging the portable heaters around her in a careful circle, making sure none of the heat escaped. The girl helped as best she could, dragging small chunks of broken snow aside and offering the mother a tiny hand to hold. Hours passed, and the storm outside showed no sign of letting up. Marcus's hands ached from the cold and his teeth rattled in his jaw, but he refused to stop. Every second counted. Every moment of warmth he could give might be the difference between life and death. The girl spoke again, her voice quieter now, trembling but curious. Why do you help?" "My people, they say humans. Cruel, dangerous." Marcus paused, looking into her wide, trusting eyes. "Some humans can be cruel," he admitted. "But not all. Not when it matters. Not when someone needs help. We fight for life, even when the odds are against us. That's what makes us human." The girl stayed silent for a long moment, then nodded slowly, as if understanding something she had never known before. Her hand still held her mother, but a tiny spark of hope had entered her gaze. Marcus checked the mother again. Her pulse was faint, but it was there. He let himself breathe a little easier. The fight was far from over, but for now they had a chance. And in this frozen wasteland, sometimes a chance was everything. He whispered to both of them, though he knew the mother could not hear him. "Stay with me. Don't give up. Not tonight. We'll make it through. You will see the sun again." The little girl tightened her hold on her mother's hand, and Marcus could feel her trembling lessen slightly. For the first time since he found them, there was a fragile thread of hope stretching between them, a promise that humans could protect, could fight, could give life when it seemed lost. Outside, the storm raged on, indifferent to their struggle, but inside a human refused to leave a life behind. And in that refusal, Marcus felt something stronger than fear or cold. He felt purpose. The storm outside was relentless. Snow and ice lashed at the thin walls of the portable shelter, bending the supports and rattling the metal frame. Inside it was quieter, but still painfully cold. Captain Marcus Hale could feel the chill through his suit, gnawing at his bones. His hands were stiff, fingers numb, but he refused to stop. The mother's life depended on him, and every second he delayed could cost her everything. He leaned over her body again. Her skin was still bluish, and her shallow breathing was uneven. Marcus knew that the cold had already slowed her heart and dulled her senses. He had to act fast. "We're going to get through this," he muttered, mostly to himself. He adjusted the portable heaters, angling them closer without burning her skin. Then he wrapped another thermal blanket around her fragile body, pressing it firmly to trap every ounce of warmth. He could feel the little girl trembling beside him, her small hands clutching his arm. "Human, will she be okay?" the girl whispered, voice quivering. Her tears had frozen on her cheeks, glittering like tiny crystals. Marcus swallowed hard. "We're not giving up," he said firmly. "Not now. Not ever." He glanced at her mother's face, frozen in a fragile stillness. "You hear that? We fight together. You have to hold on for her, and she has to hold on for you." The girl nodded, shivering, but her eyes carried a spark of determination. She leaned closer, pressing her tiny body against her mother's, trying to give her warmth even as her own body shook. Marcus could see the fear in her Yes, but also a courage that he recognized. This was what made humans human. The choice to protect even when the odds were against you. Hours dragged on. Marcus rotated the heaters, checked the mother's pulse, and administered the emergency nutrient packs. He shared some of his own body heat, pressing his back and shoulders against her. The little girl protested at first, worried that Marcus would freeze, but he only shook his head. "I've been through colder nights," he said, his teeth chattering. She needs me more than I need warmth." The mother stirred slightly. A tiny breath escaped her lips, faint but present. Marcus's heart skipped. He whispered encouragingly, "That's it. Stay with us. You're stronger than the storm." The storm outside seemed endless, a deafening roar of snow and wind. Marcus worked tirelessly, his mind focused only on the task at hand. He checked every blanket, every heater, every bit of warmth he could give. The little girl sat close, offering comfort with her small hands, speaking softly to her mother in a language Marcus could barely understand. But the tone, full of love and hope, was universal. For the first time since he had found them, he saw movement in the mother's chest. Not much, but enough to give him hope. He pressed his hand against hers. "You're doing it. You're holding on. That's all that matters." The girl's eyes filled with tears of relief, but Marcus did not let them linger in fear. "We're not safe yet," he reminded them both. "But we're fighting. We survive together. That's what humans do. We protect, we endure, we never give up." The night stretched on, slow and merciless. Yet inside the small dome, warmth began to gather, however fragile it was. Marcus's arms ached, his body shook from cold, but he refused to let despair take root. He had come to this frozen wasteland as an explorer. But now he was something more, a guardian, a lifeline, a human showing that even in the darkest, coldest place, life could be saved by courage and heart. And so, they waited together, 3 souls against the storm, united by hope, by the fight to survive, and by the undeniable strength of humanity. The storm outside finally seemed to weaken, though the wind still howled like a restless spirit. Inside the shelter, the little alien girl huddled beside her mother, her small body pressed close, trembling from both fear and cold. Marcus Hale had not moved from his kneeling position near the mother, carefully monitoring her breathing and pulse. Each shallow rise and fall of her chest was a reminder of how fragile life could be, and how precious. The girl's voice broke the heavy silence. "Human, why you help us?" she whispered, her black eyes searching his face for an answer. Her small fingers touched her mother's hand, then lightly rested on Marcus's arm, as if to anchor herself in someone she could trust. Marcus swallowed, his own throat tight. "Some humans? We can be cruel," he said quietly, choosing his words carefully. "But not all. Not when someone needs help. Not when you have no one else. Humans, we fight for life, even when the odds are against us. Even when we're afraid. That's what makes us human." The girl tilted her head, her eyes wide, trying to understand. Marcus smiled faintly despite the exhaustion that weighed on him. He could see the fear in her gaze, but also the spark of hope that had begun to flicker in the darkness. "Do you have daughter?" she asked suddenly, her voice barely audible over the faint hum of the heaters. Marcus's heart clenched. He thought of his daughter back on Earth, waiting for him, laughing, running through their home, unaware of the dangers he faced in the cold expanse of space. He nodded. "Yes, she's about your age," he said softly. "If she was out here, in this storm, I would do everything to bring her back safe." The girl's lips quivered. She pressed her forehead gently against her mother's arm. I thought humans, all cruel, but you saved my mom. You saved us." Marcus reached out, placing a gloved hand lightly on her shoulder. "We don't save because it's easy," he said. "We save because it's right. Because we can. And because no life, human or not, should be left to freeze alone." The mother stirred slightly, making a faint, almost imperceptible sound. The girl gasped, eyes wide. "Mama?" she whispered, clutching her mother tighter. Marcus watched, heart heavy with hope and fear intertwined. The mother's lips moved slightly, a faint warmth returning to her blue-tinted skin. Marcus checked her pulse. It was weak but steady. Relief washed over him in a quiet wave. "She's still with us," he murmured. "She's fighting. And so are you." The little girl leaned closer to her mother, whispering words Marcus could not understand, but the tone was full of love, care, and fierce determination. It reminded him of his own daughter, of how small hands could give strength to the weary and hope to the hopeless. The storm outside began to fade further, leaving the sky dark but calm. Snowflakes drifted lazily, no longer driven by the violent gusts. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the tension in his body ease slightly. His suit was cold, his muscles stiff, but his heart felt warmth stronger than any heater could provide. He glanced at the two of them, The little girl holding her mother, eyes wide but now filled with hope, and the mother slowly regaining her strength. In that moment, Marcus understood something profound. Humanity's strength was not in weapons or ships or technology. It was in the courage to act, in the choice to protect when no one else would, in the willingness to fight against impossible odds to save life itself. The girl looked up at him, tears shining in her eyes. "You, human. Strong, brave. You give hope." Marcus gave a tired but genuine smile. "Not brave," he said softly. "Just human. And humans. We fight when it matters most." The little alien girl pressed her forehead to his shoulder, her tears soaking through his suit. For a moment, the fear, the cold, the storm, all of it seemed to vanish. In that small, fragile embrace, Marcus felt a connection across worlds, a bridge of trust and compassion that transcended species. In the quiet that followed, with the mother slowly regaining strength and the storm retreating, Marcus knew this night would never be forgotten. Humanity had shown its best, not in battle or conquest, but in the simple act of saving a life when all hope seemed lost. The storm had finally begun to fade outside, leaving a soft, heavy silence over the frozen landscape. Inside the small shelter, Captain Marcus Hale leaned over the mother, watching her chest rise and fall in shallow, uneven breaths. She was still weak, her skin pale and tinged blue, but she was alive, and that tiny spark of life was all that mattered. The little alien girl sat beside her mother, her small hands clutching the frostbitten fingers. Her eyes were wide and fearful, but they also held a fragile hope. "Mama, don't leave me," she whispered, tears streaming down her frozen cheeks. "Please, stay with me." Marcus checked the mother's pulse again. It was faint, irregular, but steady. Every second she stayed alive was a victory. But he knew hypothermia could take her at any moment. He had to act quickly, carefully, and with every ounce of focus he possessed. He removed one of the thermal blankets, layering it closer to her body, and adjusted the portable heaters. Then he pressed his gloved hands against her chest, feeling the feeble warmth that remained. "You're stronger than you think," he murmured. "Don't give up, not now, not ever." The mother's eyes fluttered open, revealing a flicker of confusion and fear. When she saw her daughter clinging to her side, her lips quivered and a soft, broken sound escaped her throat. A faint whisper of recognition. The little girl gasped, clutching her mother tighter. "Mama, you're awake!" Marcus's heart swelled with relief, but he knew the danger was far from over. The mother's body was still weak, vulnerable, and every second in the cold could undo everything. He leaned closer, whispering encouraging words, pressing his body warmth against hers, sharing what little heat he had left. The girl's voice trembled. "Human, you will freeze. You help her too much." Marcus shook his head, teeth chattering. "I face colder nights," he said with a faint smile. "But she needs warmth more than I do. We share strength. That's what humans do." Hours passed, each moment stretching like eternity. Marcus rotated the heaters, adjusted the blankets, and encouraged both mother and daughter. The girl whispered to her mother softly. Words Marcus could not understand, but the love and determination in her voice were unmistakable. He watched as the mother's breathing grew steadier, her pulse stronger, her skin slowly regaining a faint color. Finally, a real sign of life. A small, strong breath from the mother. Marcus exhaled, feeling his own body relax slightly, though his muscles ached and his hands were numb. The girl clutched him, eyes wide with gratitude. "Human, you saved her," she whispered. "You saved my mom." Marcus shook his head gently, still focused on the mother. "We all saved her," he said. "You for staying with her, me for keeping her warm, and her for fighting every second to hold on. Life. It's stronger when we fight together." The mother opened her eyes fully, meeting Marcus's gaze. There was fear there, yes, but also understanding, recognition, and something else, a spark of hope. She pressed her hand weakly against his gloved hand, a silent thank you that needed no words. The little girl leaned close to Marcus, her tears falling freely now, her voice small and trembling. "Human, my people. They say humans cruel, but you are different, brave, strong, you protect life." Marcus smiled faintly, warmth spreading through his chest despite the lingering cold. "Not brave," he said softly. "Just human. And humans. We fight for what is right, even when it is hard, even when it seems impossible." Outside, the snow continued to fall lightly, the storm finally retreating into silence. Inside, the small family huddled together, warmth slowly returning, hope igniting like a fragile flame. Marcus knew the battle was far from over. The mother was still weak, the planet still harsh, but they had survived the first and hardest night. In that quiet, exhausted moment, Marcus understood something profound. Humanity's true strength was not in weapons or ships or technology. It was in the choice to fight for life, to protect when others would give up, and to risk everything for hope. Tonight, humanity had done exactly that, the little alien girl whispered again, her voice full of awe. You are human, and humans save lives. Marcus looked at her, at the mother regaining strength, and felt a quiet pride. He was cold, tired, and aching, but in that moment, he was exactly where he was meant to be, fighting, protecting, proving that humans could shine even in the darkest, coldest corners of the universe. The storm had faded into a cold, quiet night. The snow still blanketed the planet, soft and endless, but the wind had softened to a gentle whisper. Inside the small shelter, Marcus Hale sat with his back pressed against the wall, exhaustion weighing on him like a heavy stone. Every muscle ached, every joint screamed, but he refused to leave the mother and daughter alone for even a second. The little alien girl sat beside him, her small hands clutching her mother's fingers. Her eyes were wide, filled with relief, but also fear that the warmth they had fought so hard to regain could vanish in an instant. The mother stirred. Slowly at first, her eyelids fluttered open, revealing dark, wary eyes. She looked around, confused, then focused on her daughter. Recognition flashed across her face. She tried to lift her hand, trembling, to touch the girl's cheek. The child gasped, pressing her forehead against her mother, whispering words Marcus couldn't understand, but the meaning was clear. I'm here. You're safe now. Marcus felt a thrill of hope, but he did not relax. He carefully adjusted the portable heaters, wrapped another thermal blanket around the mother, and pressed himself close, sharing what little warmth he had left. Her pulse was still weak, but it was steady. Her breaths were longer, deeper, no longer the shallow gasps that had almost broken his heart hours ago. The girl looked at him, eyes shining. Human, you saved her. You did not leave her. Her voice trembled, a mixture of gratitude and awe. My people, they say humans cruel, but you are strong, brave, you protect life. Marcus shook his head gently. Not brave, he said softly, just human. And humans. We fight for life when it matters most. We fight because someone has to. That's what makes us human. The mother's eyes met his, a faint smile flickering across her frozen lips. She weakly grasped his hand, her grip fragile but determined. Marcus nodded, a silent promise passing between them. He would not let her die. Not tonight, not ever. Time passed slowly. The mother's condition improved in small increments, tiny signs that life was returning. Her body regained a faint warmth, her blue-tinged skin slowly shifting toward a pale, healthy hue. Each small movement was a victory, each shallow breath a triumph. Marcus's heart swelled with relief and pride, but he stayed vigilant, knowing the night was far from over. The little girl spoke again, her voice quieter now, full of wonder. Why, humans help so much? Why, you risk self for others? Marcus smiled faintly, exhausted but unwavering. Because life matters, he replied. Every life, every being. You may be small and the world may be cold and cruel, but if we can protect, we should. That's who we are. That's what humans do. We fight even when hope seems lost. The girl leaned against her mother, tears sparkling in the dim light of the shelter. Marcus watched silently as she whispered to her mother, soft words filled with love and promise. The mother responded with faint movements, finally able to hold her daughter's hand without trembling. Marcus felt a warmth deeper than any heater could provide, a warmth that came from knowing he had made a difference, that life had been saved because a human had refused to turn away. The little alien girl's trust, the mother's survival, the fragile hope that now bloomed in that cold shelter. It all mattered more than the exhaustion that weighed on him. Outside, the first signs of dawn began to creep across the horizon, pale light reflecting off the snow. Inside, life returned to a mother and child, and Marcus felt a quiet pride. Humanity's strength was not measured in weapons or power. It was measured in courage, in compassion, in the refusal to let life fade away when help was within reach. The little girl looked up at him one last time, her eyes bright with gratitude. You are human. You must save us. Always remember. Humans protect. Marcus nodded, a faint smile breaking through his fatigue. I will remember, he said softly. And in that moment, surrounded by the quiet of the frozen planet, Marcus Hale understood something profound. Even in the coldest, harshest corners of the universe, humanity's light could shine, and it could save lives. The first pale light of dawn crept over the horizon, painting the frozen landscape in soft shades of silver and blue. The storm was gone, leaving only the quiet hiss of the wind and the crunch of snow underfoot. Inside the small shelter, the mother stirred again, stronger this time. Her breathing was steady, her pulse firm, and warmth slowly returned to her body. Marcus Hale watched her closely, relief flooding through him like sunlight after a long night. The little alien girl sat beside her mother, holding her hand tightly, her eyes wide and full of wonder. Mama, you okay? She whispered, her voice trembling with both fear and joy. The mother's lips curved into a weak smile, her hand pressing gently against her daughter's. Marcus could see the gratitude and love shining in both their eyes, a bond that had been tested and had survived the cold, the storm, and the fear of losing each other. Marcus finally allowed himself to sit back, exhaustion crashing over him in waves. He shivered, but he didn't care. He had risked his own warmth, his own life to save them, and it had been worth every frozen second. He had discovered something profound in the process. Humanity's strength was not just in technology or firepower. It was in the willingness to act, to protect, and to never give up when life hung by a thread. The little girl looked at him with wide, shining eyes. Human, you saved us, my people. They say humans cruel, but you are different. You, brave, strong. You protect life. Her words trembled with awe, her voice small but full of meaning. Marcus gave a tired, gentle smile. Not brave, he said softly. Just human. And humans. We fight for life when it matters most. We fight because someone has to. Because hope matters more than fear. That's what makes us human. The mother reached out weakly and placed her hand over Marcus's gloved hand, pressing it with a fragile strength. Her eyes conveyed gratitude beyond words. Marcus nodded, silently promising that she and her daughter were safe now, that he would not let them face the cold again alone. Hours passed, and the warmth of the shelter, the sun creeping over the snow, and the restored strength of the mother created a calm that had seemed impossible the night before. The little girl leaned against her mother, whispering words Marcus could not understand, but the love and reassurance were universal. Marcus watched quietly, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment he had never experienced on any mission or expedition. A distant hum broke the silence. The shuttle from the Artemis had arrived, its engine steady and comforting. Rescue crews moved quickly, setting up medical equipment and preparing to transport the mother safely. The little girl clutched Marcus's arm tightly. You stay with us? She asked, her voice trembling. Marcus smiled faintly. I'll be nearby, he said softly. But now, you're going home, and that's what matters. As the mother was lifted carefully onto the shuttle, the girl ran to Marcus, hugging him with all the strength her small body could muster. You, human, you save us, my people. Well, no, humans protect, humans give life. Her words were simple, but the meaning was immense. Marcus felt the weight of that truth settle over him, a reminder that even across galaxies humans could shine, could give hope, and could be the difference between life and death. Marcus watched as the shuttle rose into the sky, carrying mother and daughter to safety. The wind was still cold, the snow still bright and endless, but he felt warmth in his chest that no freezing planet could take away. Humanity's light had reached across the stars tonight, and it had saved lives. The little alien girl's voice echoed in his memory. Humans protect life. Marcus smiled, a promise forming in his heart. Wherever he went, whatever he faced, he would never forget this night. Humanity was capable of greatness not through power or weapons, but through courage, compassion, and the choice to protect when it mattered most. And on that frozen planet, in the quiet aftermath of the storm, a human had shown exactly what it meant to be human.